I don't know. My problem with Next is that it's backed by Vercel, and I like Vercel. I like Guillermo. I have respect for the company completely. But putting the number one framework in the hands of a private company is dangerous, right?
So you're saying they have to IPO and then you'd feel better?
I would feel a little bit better because the incentives change, like a startup versus a public company, but the incentives are still there. And but to be clear, this is the same argument I used to make about Facebook too, but I feel like Facebook's incentives, I think in practice, I feel like they actually did a really good job of not doing things like Facebook never really had an incentive for people to use React at the expense of, how do I say this? Like Facebook doesn't make profit off of React.
Jay Phelps, a senior software engineer at Netflix, joins us to discuss Next, Vercel, third-party scripts, and performance on the web.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Modern Web Podcast. I am one of your hosts today, Tracy. You can follow me on Twitter at Lady Lee or on LinkedIn at Tracy S. Lee. And today we're here to compare two mustaches. The mustache of Jay Phelps and Ben Lesh.
No contest. His is way better.
No, I think they have different qualities.
What are the qualities of yours?
Mine is like super, super thick and tall, and Ben's is very like shapely.
Yeah, mine is more experimental and like I just don't give a crap, and I haven't been shaving, so.
And also the clean shaven face of Adam Rackis. I guess it's not clean shaven today. You have a 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, I shaved last Thursday.
Jay has a midnight shadow. Anyways, so
Jay's got the like Wild West sheriff's mustache. Like you call on the sheriff to break up a fight. That's what walks in, and things are going to get settled real quick.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Jay actually he shaved like 5 minutes ago.
It just keeps coming back. Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, you should obviously go to YouTube and check out the mustaches or lack of mustaches and shadows and all that. But anyways, okay, so Ben Lesh is one of my hosts as well. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
And you can follow him on Twitter at Ben Lesh. And Adam's also a host today. And Adam Rackis on Twitter. Did you add me on LinkedIn yet?
I still have not. I promise I'm going to do this when we're done.
And then we have a special guest today. LinkedIn keeps telling me to get verified and how it's really easy and free. And then I keep clicking on the link and saying, okay, look, this is not easy. And I don't know if it's free either, but this is hard. Anyone else verified on LinkedIn? Yeah. Are they still using Ember?
I don't know. I'm blaming Ember.
Someone check the website.
Get Tom Dale on here.
I miss Ember. I do. I really do, actually.
Oh, really? Well, Jay Phelps, before we talk about why you miss Ember, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Jay Phelps. You can follow me on Twitter at _JayPhelps, _Jay Phelps. I'm a software engineer at Netflix. I work on a shared client foundations team. So like a foundation team for stuff that's shared across all the different clients like mobile, TV, web. So initiatives that involve all of them, basically. So I kind of dabble in all sorts of stuff.
And this ended up on your calendar, and here you are.
Yes, exactly right. It's just thrown on my calendar, and it's like, okay, well, here you are. Yep.
I'm supposed to be somewhere.
Yeah, when Tracy sends me an invite, I show up.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm having a birthday party. No, I'm having an Easter egg hunt at my house in about a month. Would you like to come?
It depends on the date. Yeah, like because I have to visit. Next month is our team on site.
Oh.
It doesn't. I doubt that it would overlap with Easter. So.
Well, you all are invited. It's March 23rd, and it is 780 eggs for children's ages 0 to 4.
Is this your house, or where is it?
It's going to be in my backyard. Oh, you're going to be in Key West? Of course you are. Where's Adam Rackis in the world? Key West. Yeah, that's it.
Wait, why are you going to be in Key West?
He's always in Key West.
Oh, okay.
And if you watch those like Key West cameras, they have like these live cams. There's this place called Sloppy Joe's, which like apparently doesn't serve Sloppy Joe's, or maybe they do. I don't know. But like, should you actually eat it there?
What?
I don't know.
What?
There's a bar
Then I
called
wanna know-
Sloppy Joe's.
If they
It's an
don't
old,
serve sloppy
bar-
joes, why is it called that?
Maybe it's because they're sloppy. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that was literally just a realization for me. Like, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's because everyone gets drunk there.
Yeah.
It
They
was
should still
a
serve
famous-
sloppy joes.
It was a
Go ahead,
favorite
Adam.
hangout of Hemingway's. I don't know if he was instrumental in the naming or if the name has something to do with
Oh.
Hemingway. There's pictures of Hemingway all over the walls inside Sloppy
Wait,
Joe's.
like, is Hemingway's last name Joe?
I don't
Or
think
sorry,
so.
first name.
name's
It's his
Ernest.
first name. Oh my gosh.
But
I
Yes, I believe
literally,
so.
where am
by all
I?
accounts, he used to get pretty sloppy. So I guess that could
There you
have
go.
something to do with it.
Look, all we know is that Ernest Hemingway's house has a lot of cats. Okay, so
Well, I mean,
does.
Adam Rackis is going to Key West for the same reasons that Ernest Hemingway went to Key West, which is he was told it's better to get drunk in Key West than drunk in Oklahoma.
yeah,
pretty much.
they have good pina coladas. Okay, which
Part
brings
of
us back.
that's-
Yeah. 3 truths, 2 truths, and a lie. 2 truths. Okay, but okay, let's get back to this Ember situation. So Jay Phelps misses Ember. Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, the number one thing is I miss the community and the simplicity of it and the paved pathness of it. Like, it's very like, this is how you do it. Like, even if it's awkward, this is how you do it. And I'm not saying it's awkward. I'm just saying, like, there's cases where things like sound good in theory, and then in practice, there's edge cases that it doesn't handle and those sorts of things. And I kind of like that. It was very comforting. And I haven't followed Ember for years, so I have no idea what they're up to.
But like, so you just miss like the opinionated nature of like, I don't have to think about this.
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, you do have to think about it in practice, but I mean, like, there's just things are just more paved, or were more paved, I guess. Whereas like React is kind of Wild West. It's changing, like, because today people use Next, which is basically kind of Ember for React, in a lot of ways. And it's not, even more than that. Like, it provides even more stuff than Ember does. And so I think that's changing. But I also think it's somewhat dangerous to I don't know. My problem with Next is that it's backed by Vercel, and I like Vercel. I like Guillermo. I have respect for the company completely. But putting the number one framework in the hands of a private company is dangerous, right?
So you're saying they have to IPO and then you'd feel better?
I would feel a little bit better because the incentives change, like a startup versus a public company, but the incentives are still there. And but to be clear, this is the same argument I used to make about Facebook too, but I feel like Facebook's incentives, I think in practice, I feel like they actually did a really good job of not doing things like Facebook never really had an incentive for people to use React at the expense of, how do I say this? Like, Facebook doesn't make a profit off of React. Whereas Vercel does. Like, it's like its whole shtick. Like, they need you to use it so that they can make a profit off you. Which, again, I'm not an anti-capitalist at all. But it's just scary, just something to think about, and especially for folks who want to use React in cases where Next makes no sense, which are a lot of cases. It's one of the reasons why you have people like Ken Wheeler, who are constantly railing against these, some of the new developments in the React community, because his use cases, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even make sense. Same thing with Netflix. Like, on our TV, we use React. We're never going to use Next. We're never going to use, like a lot of the newer stuff that's come out. It's just incompatible with our application model. And but yeah, I mean, I used Next back when I did Outsmartly. It's great. I'm not trying to trash it at all. Just I don't know how I went from Ember to talking. Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
All roads lead to Next, because it's like what do you call it? Podcast bingo. You know. So actually, we'll just keep letting you talk, and we'll see what other hot topics come out, and I won't even bring them up. But you must be hanging out with Ben, because Ben is always like, I don't use that crap, and Adam's like, oh, shut up, Ben. What are you talking about? This is great stuff.
I don't use that crap.
No, I'm glad. I think people are more vocal. Like, there are use cases like what Ken and Ben do, which is, I believe, somewhat similar, and Jay is doing very different things. neither of which have any use for React server components, and that's totally fine. And I think we need to normalize the fact that
Ding, ding,
there's a whole lot
ding.
of use cases.
Another bingo. React server components. Jay didn't even bring that up just now.
I think he did. That's what he was talking about.
Did you?
The newer stuff.
Did you say?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I
when
did.
you said the newer stuff, you meant React server components.
alluded to
Okay.
that,
Okay.
Yeah.
There
I
we
don't know
go.
if I said it specifically, but yeah. And we do have a website. We do, so we may use it on there someday. React server components and that sort of stuff like that. It's not that there aren't use cases at Netflix. Certainly, it's just, but I think for the average, the big thing when I was doing Out Smartly, which still exists today, but I just left and went back to Netflix. When I was doing Out Smartly, I just saw so many horrendous Next code bases, like so many different companies that were just super struggling with performance. And I just wish the community could, if we're gonna offer something like Next, really, really focus. I think I haven't been following lately, but I know that they're well aware of these sorts of issues. And we're also working towards trying to nudge people in the right pattern.
So like you have an issue with Next because of the performance, or like the performance in the code bases you see.
That I think is too black and white. I'm not trying to say I have an issue with Next. I think Next has a use case and it's great for that, but they can do better. And so if anything, I'm kind of, I don't know, sitting on my armchair complaining about something that, I don't want to overemphasize what I'm saying, like make you have the takeaway that I don't like Next or something, or think people shouldn't use Next, because the logical question is, well, then what should I use otherwise? And there really isn't something that I would be like, you should be using this instead. I think it just depends on what's your use case. Like if you're building, if you're building something that's not quite an application, but not quite a storefront, I feel like that's the perfect happy medium for Next at this point. Like full-on application, I feel like Next is not really great for that sort of, like if you're writing Photoshop sort of thing, or you're doing like you're mostly a dashboard for internal tools or something like that, or some sort of admin panel or something. I feel like Next isn't necessarily always the greatest. You can use it, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, not necessarily the best for that. Then there's the complete flip side of that, where it's like pure storefront. And I know they've tried in the last couple of years to try and improve the experience for that sort of use case. But last I checked, I have been out of that for a couple of years. But last I did check, it still wasn't exactly the best use case for that. But like as far as performance and other things that come with that. But at the same time, I also want to point out that none of this matters if you're using Google Tag Manager with Snapchat, with Facebook, if you're throwing all of these third-party scripts on your page, none of that even matters. Like we can talk about this till the cows come home. It's a bigger problem. I'm kind of pivoting, but I just wanted to clarify that none of these things matter how good Next is if we can't fix the third-party script problem. Like I feel like, and there's the stuff from Builder.io doing really, really cool stuff to try and like what's it called?
Party Kit.
The thing where, is it Party Kit? I was going to say Party Kit, but is that the thing? I could be conflating two different projects, but Builder.io came out with a project a couple of years back for running third-party scripts off the main thread, like worker.
So I don't know what that is.
Party Kit is Sunil's new thing
for
WebSockets.
Right. Yeah. So I am conflating two. Yeah, unrelated.
I'm the one that's
third-party script off main thread. I'm just Googling it real quick.
It's called Party Town. Yeah.
That's why I got confused. Yeah, Party Town. And that's like, I haven't touched that since probably 6 months after it came out. I stopped needing that sort of thing. But that sort of thing is what I want to see more innovation. And in some ways, it has to use some sort of hacks. It has to use some hacks to get things done. Like it uses this XML HTTP hack using the synchronous AJAX calls basically to block the main thread. Like really, if there's deficits in the browser, I feel like that's like the browser people should be helping us solve these sorts of problems, where we want to run third-party scripts, but we don't want it to slow the heck down of our website. Like
Why
I feel like
they?
that's a great question. I don't know. I feel like Google is incentivized to do that, in fact, because they're a big culprit of it.
They are,
They're
but
incentivized to fix it or to not fix it.
Yeah, to fix it, because Google Tag Manager is like one of the biggest. What were you saying, Ben?
So I was just saying that they are incentive. Like the people that are working on like Wig stuff and browser stuff, it's interesting because they move faster than say the TC39 because it's smaller groups of people, but they tend to make small, short, incremental steps towards larger goals like that. And so like it seems like there's not a lot of velocity until all of a sudden there's like, for like the CSS is a really good example where it's like they add a little feature, add a bunch of little features you don't care about, and then one day they're like, look, here's this bigger feature that we built off of all these other features. Like
progress, not perfection, right?
Yeah, the other thing is they have the same problem that framework teams do, and that the people that are working on it are removed from actual usage of the thing. But they're not the same people that go out and like implement web application, like people that might be listening to this podcast. Like they in fact might not be very good at doing that, right? Like some of them are like C++ developers or whatever. So I think that it's just
Adam hates.
They've got big jobs and not enough time to know about all those things.
Got a whole row of C++ books there on the bottom.
Yeah.
But they're on the bottom for a reason.
Because they're heavy. They're going to snap those little shells.
That's good. That's good.
I've got a question for Jay. So you said Next is not great for like a pure app dashboard, internal tools. I definitely agree with that. That definitely feels right, even though I might not be able to articulate exactly why. It just feels like I would want to use Vite with React Router for that sort of thing. I was a little surprised to hear you say that you don't think it's a good fit for pure storefront either. I would think that's where Next would kind of strive a little.
They tried. Well, I say it from, and again, I want to emphasize that I've been disconnected from that as of late, within the last year and a half to up to almost 2 years. And so a lot can change in that amount of time. So this is outdated information, but from what I'm on Twitter, so I try and stay up to date with these sort of things. And so when Next releases some new thing, like I take a look at it and all this stuff. But in practice is what I'm talking about. What I saw at Outsmartly was just every storefront that used Next was just really, really slow for various reasons. And so again, I want to emphasize that even if you, like what we tried to do, one of the things we were trying to do was fix that. But like I said, even no matter how well Next tries to fix that, unless they fix the third-party script problem, which is not their problem. Like it's their problem, but not in the sense of you can't blame Next for it because it's not their fault, but it's their problem in the sense of you go to a Next site and it's slow, and people will always say, like, why didn't Next just why is my site slow, right? Like,
yeah, but like, I mean, so what's the alternative?
The alternative, well, the best alternative for storefronts are not. Here's my argument for it. People, the best for storefront is not even to use React at all. In my opinion, like storefronts are not. I mean, if you do use React, I'm not saying never use React, but I'm saying if you do use React, it's either a sprinkle or it's server render stuff or something. Like using it as a templating language is fine. Like whatever, that's use whatever you want. But storefronts are actually they're simpler than people think in some ways, and then more complicated in other ways. But by and large, you can rely on forms. So, like for example, we at Outsmartly built a framework. It's not open source or anything, but we built a framework for generating storefront pages that barely used any client-side JavaScript at all. It relied heavily on just web forms. Like like switching between it's amazing how much JavaScript people ship just to do things that you can actually do with built-in form components. And so like active and focus changing using CSS based on if this element is focused, then this UI changes, right? Instead of swapping out classes using JavaScript on click handlers. So that really for a storefront, because here an application, your users will come back, or assuming that it's actually good. And so what the time to first render of an application doesn't matter that much. It does matter, don't get me wrong, but compared to a storefront, that's your like number one priority. Like on a storefront, time to first render and time to interactive, like those are just literally critical. Like people will literally not, you will lose people because storefronts are very transactional. So like a vast majority of your customers are only going to buy one. I mean, this is again depending on your market, but for most of them that I saw, when you're talking your standard Shopify store, usually this is the first time the customer's ever been here, and it's going to be the last time they're ever there, even if they buy something. Like it's a very transactional sort of thing, and so you need to have it rendered as quick and interactive as quickly as possible, and that means not throwing a ton of JavaScript at the problem. And I think React Server Components, I feel like, are the answer to that somewhat if you're going to use React. Like, I'm saying, like it helps that dramatically because you can then send a whole lot less JavaScript. But I still feel, I don't know. It's if someone said, hey, I think I'm trying to collect my thoughts. I think the biggest problem with doing it the way I'm talking about is it actually requires a decent amount of knowledge about the web. Yeah. Like you have to and I don't mean that to be like man on the high castle sort of. I just mean that like it's tough. Like it's tough to you have to know the interactions and all the special cool quirks. Like have you ever seen like someone have you ever seen like a tweet where someone made something incredible with like SVG that you're just like, wow, how does that even work? Like that blows my mind how this person did this cool, crazy animation thing or whatever, like using features that you didn't even know existed. It's kind of like that. Like you have to know things that the average, front-end developer just doesn't know. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why people don't do it. But I don't know.
Well, that's so hard though. It's like, then how do you know? How do you know?
You have to learn. And people have to teach you, but I feel like the industry doesn't do, I feel like we reach for JavaScript too much. I mean, there's flip sides to that. Remix, where they're still doubling down on JavaScript a lot, but they're still trying to teach you and show you that native forms themselves actually work really well. And that if you follow and use all of their patterns in a lot of ways, then you solve some of the problems I'm talking about with time to interactive issues. Like that was one of the biggest problems we saw is that people with storefronts is time to interactive issues. Someone's come to the page looks rendered, but then you try and interact with it and that does absolutely nothing.
Next is catching up a little bit though. The brand new stuff like the server actions that pair with the React Server Components, they are form based and they do progressively enhance. So things are getting a little bit better.
They're not sitting on their butt at all. They're and I have no doubt. I mean that company's full of really, really smart and talented people who are well aware of everything I'm saying. Like, and I guarantee, like, the biggest difficulty in these sort of discussions is nuance. There's not enough time to really explain everything and the nuance of it. And at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do to keep people from shooting themselves in the foot, or to prevent third-party scripts from slowing down your site. And I really do think, like, I'm actually surprised that they haven't, that people aren't, like, I feel like Vercel should be pushing, Google should be originally doing it, but clearly they're not going to. I feel like Vercel should push for some sort of platform API, like some sort of worker thread-like thing that is for running third-party scripts in a way that is non-blocking, like does not block rendering, like deprioritizes it, because the browser has all of the information on scheduling, so it can know the priority of things and know, is it more important to let the user be interactive or to send that beacon and or load this whatever script? Because the problem is, like, you can run the code off the thread, but you need access to the DOM a lot of times. Like these third-party scripts need access to the DOM, and that's why things like Party Count try and solve that problem in somewhat of a hacky way. But the issue is that it isn't a real DOM, and so there's always going to be incompatibilities. Like when you throw a script at it, there's going to be like, oops, we didn't implement that the right way, or because you effectively almost have to implement a proxy for the entire DOM. And the browser's in the best position to do that, really.
I was going to ask why you can't run. I've never used Google Tag Manager. I've been lucky in my career. So I was going to ask why you can't use it in a web worker, but you just said it needs access to the DOM. So that would preclude a web worker, which sucks.
Yep.
Can Google not make a GTM maybe doesn't depend on the DOM, or would that defeat the whole point of Google Tag Manager?
No, I mean, they can, well, Google Tag Manager also is used for loading other scripts that Google does not maintain. And that's part of the culprit. I think, to me, there's providing, how do I say this? There are always more third-party scripts, and all of them are usually pretty poorly performing. And so I feel like trying to tackle it from the perspective of fix your code isn't scalable, like in the sense of, like, I feel like we need to acknowledge that we're always going to have these third-party scripts and they're always going to run poorly. So we need to solve that. Like, we need to sandbox them in some way so that it, not literal sandbox, but like we need to somehow solve it. And this is a magic wand. I'm not giving
And
an
then
actual.
everybody will be like so upset because they're like, no, you're like killing my analytics or my metrics or whatever. But
Well, no, you have to do it in a way that
Optimizing.
doesn't do that. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, like, think of it this way. Yes, I'm not necessarily providing a fleshed out proposal or anything, but vaguely speaking, would you, I would always ask the marketer, would you rather a user buy something and you didn't track it? Like, I'm not saying you have to make that trade-off, but even if you have to make the trade-off of your tracking fault is behind, or you didn't get like you missed the page view because something was like the user interaction was prioritized. Again, I'm not saying you have to make that trade-off, but at the end of the day, would you rather actually have the sale or not have the sale? Like, of course you'd rather have the sale, even if it means your analytics are less accurate, because I can tell you your analytics aren't that accurate to begin with, and plenty of cases of your site's unresponsive, and so the user bounces and you never even get the events anyway, and you don't get the sale. You don't get the sale and you don't get the events. Like, really, you have to kind of choose your battles, and I think at the end of the day, you would rather want to have the sales. You want to have tracking too, but and I know Google has somewhat tried to. I know Google does have proposals around tracking, like cookie. I haven't seen the latest movement on this, but I know that they were working on, because they want to get rid of third-party cookies and even
Yeah,
potentially
wasn't there
first-party.
something that like this year third-party cookies are like going away or something like that?
Yeah, and there was a whole big proposal on providing analytics information, like tracking information in a anonymous way. But I haven't heard recently how well that. But even if that is a thing, like, I'm sure that answers some of the problems. There's still going to be third-party scripts, like, that are doing tracking things that have nothing to do with cookies, or they use first-party cookies or local storage. Like, people will always find a way to track you, and people will always want those scripts to, like, businesses will always want those to have tracking. So I feel like we need to solve that problem somehow. But again,
it seems
it's so easy to wave a magic wand.
Y'all should have just
about
gone to work
something.
at Vercel and fixed all these problems.
it seems
Yeah.
like they're close to being able to have all the tools they need to solve some of these problems, right? Because there's already like web
Yeah.
security context where if it's not the same
Yeah.
origin, then you can apply different policies and stuff. And it seems like you should be able to be like, all right, so if your JavaScript came from a different origin and it doesn't have the security policy, then it can't do X, and it can't add more JavaScript that can do X or whatever. Like, it seems like there should be some way to allow developers to control what can do what. And
But that's the thing,
possibly
is you
maybe
want it
even
to be
force
able
things to
to.
run in a worker, right? Like,
Yeah, that's I think, because it's not that the developers are, it's not that things are happening that developers don't want to have happen, like in the sense of access. Like, it
Right.
wants it to
Users.
have access to the DOM. It's just we don't want it to be so slow, like to be slowing down and blocking the main thread, and causing the time to first render and time to interactive to be slower. So like your suggestion about like it running in a worker, like all of these, without a doubt, every single one of these scripts could run a majority of their code off the main thread if they wanted to, but that would require custom coding, and it requires additional knowledge that's not easy to attain and not easy to hire for, about working with the post message and all that fun stuff, the serialization stuff. And then also at the end of the day, you still need to access the main thread with the current worker APIs. What you really need is a non-blocking DOM access in the worker thread. That's really, there's probably other ways about this, but the simplest solution would be, which, and I say simple, it's really not simple, but the solution I feel like would solve this is to give them basically allow a script to run unmodified off the main thread, but in a way that accesses the DOM asynchronously. Even if that means like essentially it blocks the thread itself, like in the sense of, and that's kind of how Party Kit or Party Town works. It's like it blocks the thread itself, the extra thread, and then asynchronously actually accesses the DOM, if that makes sense. And so you can emulate having a synchronous API that's not actually synchronous. Like it's synchronous to the thread itself, but it doesn't touch the DOM synchronously, if that makes sense. And so anyway, it's like I said, I want to emphasize it's easy for me as to complain about this. It's much harder to actually have things. So it's not really that surprising that we are.
So you're imagining multiple threads mutating the DOM at the same time, asynchronously?
Mutating,
or are you
reads, and I maybe there's I'm sure there's probably use cases for these third-party scripts to mutate the DOM, but that is a territory I feel like is less about what I'm trying to talk about, because really like a perfect use case for a third-party script is like knowing it tracks and sends a beacon when something is in view, like when they scroll down into your little gallery thing. Like a lot of people use these like gallery widget things, and when you scroll down there, then it sends a beacon that knows that you've used it, and then it can personalize the content recommendations the next time you go to another product page or you come back. Or it can do, email campaigns, like a lot of those will email you like, hey, did you want to buy these? The annoying stuff that everyone hates, but for some reason still works. And so that's why people do it.
The one I just got, we have abandonment issues, meaning I abandoned my cart. Yeah. I know I did. I did forget about it, and I did come back, so it did work.
See, it's one of those things where it's like, it's annoying, but at the same time, it works with people. So that's why people do it.
Except for Tipsy Elves. Tipsy Elves, I'm like, okay, look, I get it. Okay, I visited your site. I do not need 6 emails in one day to remind me to buy some ski suit that I didn't want, unless it's 50% off. I mean, I did buy 6 Halloween outfits when they were 50% off, so it's true. Yeah. I need an Easter Bunny one. Which, for those of you watching, thanks for letting me eat a burrito and 5 peanut butter cups. It was pretty delicious. It was from Trader Joe's, and
that's what that was. I thought it was a cheese stick for some reason. I thought it was like it
was a chicken chili verde burrito, and Trader Joe's peanut butter cups. So
those are good.
I was telling the guys I'm tired because children are hard. So
yeah.
I'm eating. Anyways, so Jay talked more than Ben today for the first time ever.
Okay.
Is it because like your mustache walks in and it's just like,
yeah, oh, it's overpowering.
One thing I can tell you is Tracy's more obsessed with my mustache than anyone else's mustache.
Oh
that's ever
my gosh, it's true.
She has not failed to mention it. Like one time
in every single anytime Ben sends me a picture, I'm like, what about your mustache? Which, by the way, Ben and Jay, we've known each other for like 10 years now. Do you know how I know that? I met Lainey when she was like 3 months old, 4 months old. I don't know how old, 2 months old. I mean, she was a baby. And Lainey is 9 with Lily.
Yeah.
See? Lily. I look at a picture of Lily and I think Lainey because they look exactly alike.
Yeah, and she's probably almost as tall as Tracy at this point.
It's so traumatizing, y'all. It's so traumatizing, like children telling your age. Yeah. So, Jay, do you feel old? Because I think I know how old Ben and you are. I know you guys are 10 years apart. But, Jay, if you were a baby when we met.
yeah. I
mean, we were all babies.
Something
you
like
were
that.
26?
Something like that, yeah. I can't remember which year we met. What year did we meet?
Wait, that means Ben is way older than I thought.
I'm 36 now, so.
Yeah.
She's like, she saw a picture. I sent her a picture of me from like there's a daddy-daughter dance, and she saw my facial hair, and she's like, "Makes you look old as or whatever," she said. And I'm like, I am old. Like I don't know.
You're gonna make me edit this dang podcast, y'all. Dropping F-bombs.
Have to bleep it.
Yeah,
Bleep
I'll
it.
have to bleep. But this was fun. So it's very stressful though, because it makes me feel like, how do you know? And it's like like the the junior developer, the mid-level developer. Like, when am I going to get promoted? When am I going to become a senior? When am I going to whatever? And I'm like, well, Jay, how do I know all these things you're telling me? Well, experience. So deal with it. Like, there's nothing to read.
Yeah. And I do want to just emphasize again that, like, I'm not saying don't use Next. I'm just saying that I wish more people would try and reduce the amount of JavaScript that they're shipping. Like, that's the big takeaway.
Yay.
Yeah. I was going to say Astro looks great for storefronts.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance. I had a chance to play with it when it first came out, and then I've never really touched it since then.
I'm doing my part. I'm
Well,
trying to put RxJS in the browser, and then no more RxJS. No one will have to download that anymore.
And we are going to have, oh my gosh, who is it? We're going to have
Matt Phillips.
Somebody. Yeah, thank you. I was like looking at my Twitter DMs, like, who did I just recently invite? Yeah, we're going to have Matt Phillips.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, he's one of the co-founders of Astro. He'll be coming on the podcast very soon. We will have Jay returning, but you can slide into his DMs if you want. And are you on LinkedIn, Jay?
Technically, yeah.
Technically, yeah.
I mean, like, I haven't touched it in forever, but I mean, like,
same with Adam.
There is a profile for me on there, yeah.
Yeah, well, you can always slide into my LinkedIn DMs because, like, I talk to people there.
Oh, you do? Oh, wow. Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, you're a business owner, of course.
Not for the past, 3 weeks, though, because, children and sicknesses. But thanks for listening, everyone. Okay, we'll see you all soon. Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
Before we get back to our conversation, we wanted to say thank you to This.Labs, who is the sponsor of today's show. If you need help with a project that has failed to deliver on time, or are in need of a team that feels true ownership over your engineering projects, definitely hit up This.Labs. They specialize in helping business leaders ensure their strategic digital initiatives stay on track. Trusted by companies like PlayStation, Capital One, Herman Miller, PayPal, and T-Mobile, you can find them at thisdot.co. That's THISDOT.co. Now, let's return to our show.